everyone. My name is AJ Vicente. This is Kedar Venkataramani. Good. And we're here today representing on behalf of Wolf-PAC. Our presentation is about getting money out of politics. As we all know, money is a huge issue in our campaigns. Our candidates raise significant, vast amount of money that essentially work against us. They raise money from corporations, from unions, from special interest groups that all just do not care about the public policy and the general welfare or the well-being of the general public. We have a serious issue in this country with corruption. It's gone on for the last 250 years or so, but has really been publicized within the last 50 years, ever since a couple of new court decisions. We're going to go over that in a little bit. But what we're going to do first is give you a couple of definitions that we need in order to define the issue correctly. So, next slide, please.
So here's some important terms to know, specifically for the rest of the presentation. We got soft money and dark money. So soft money is the term for all money that's contributed to a political party instead of a particular candidate who's running for office. This is opposed to hard money, which is the money that's donated specifically to a candidate. Another term here is dark money, and that's money contributed to a nonprofit organization that's used to fund political campaigns, and it's explicitly used without disclosing the donors. Specifically, these are nonprofit organizations that are classified as social welfare organizations or as business leagues, such as super PACs. So we're going to start with the Federal Election Commission Act of 1971. This was really one of the first major pieces of legislation passed through Congress that sort of consolidated a lot of the previous legislations that were passed. And in 1974, they passed a couple of amendments to it. These amendments were passed in direct response to the 1972 presidential election scandal. And one of the amendments formed the FEC. And the purpose of the FEC was to disclose campaign finance information to enforce the provisions of the law, such as limits and prohibitions on contributions, and to oversee the public funding of presidential elections. So the amendments also introduced specific campaign finance limits on contributions and donations. Next slide. And this is where we start with Buckley v. Vallejo, which was a court case that challenged the amendments and the restrictions that were established through the FECA. So this court case specifically addressed whether or not the limitations that were suggested were actually violations of free speech. And the outcome of the court case created 527s. The 527s are a tax-exempt group organized under Section 527 of the IRS Code to raise money for political activities. Such organizations can raise unlimited funds from individuals, corporations, or labor unions, but they must register with the IRS and disclose their contributions and expenditures. However, they're only required to disclose it to the IRS, not to the public. And the IRS in general does not disclose what they are told to the public. So therefore, the only people that really knew about what was being donated was just the IRS. So this allowed for an unlimited amount of soft money donations because they could be donated directly to the political campaigns and they don't have to be disclosed to the public and only to the IRS. Next slide. So between Buckley v. Vallejo and 2002, there really wasn't a lot of advancements in campaign finance reform. The next major piece of campaign finance reform legislation came with the McCain-Feingold Act. This was a landmark piece of legislation that was passed to address the inadequacies of campaign finance regulation. It banned soft money donations directly to political parties. It banned solicitation of soft money donations by elected officials. It limited advertising of special interest organizations up to 60 days before the election. and it restricted political parties' ability to fund advertising on behalf of their candidates. Next slide. So, McConnell versus FEC was a court case that challenged McCain-Feingold. You see a pattern here, there's some campaign finance regulation passed, and then people challenge it in court. So, this case was addressing the similar situation to Buckley v. Vallejo. Is limiting campaign finance contributions or solicitations, is it a violation of free speech? Does it violate Article 1, Section 4? Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution designates that it defers the ability of election monitoring and regulation to the states. So, another question that the court case was looking at is, did it violate it? The court decided that the donation limitations are allowed, because donation limitations are necessary to protect the democratic process. But you can't limit independent expenditure, because that is still considered part of free speech. And a quote to show the importance of preserving the democratic process through such regulation is from Justice O'Connor and Stevens, where they said that money, like water, will always find an outlet. And that's really telling, because regardless of what sort of regulations passed, you're going to have some sort of organizations that are going to try and circumvent them. Next slide.
So after 2002, there were two movies that came out. One was Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11. I believe it came out in 2004, and it essentially targeted George Bush and how he reacted to the devastation of terrorism on 9/11. And shortly after that, in 2008, Citizens United put together some money to come out with Hillary, the movie. Hilarious movie. Actually, it was just released, I believe, about a year or two ago, not in 2008. This actually caused a bit of commotion among legislators and regulatory factors. What happened was Citizens United decided to put out this promotion of Hillary Clinton, which belittled her, discriminated against her, so forth, so on. And the regulatory powers said, no, we can't have that. It's too close to an election. You're trying to swing an election. You just can't do that. So, next slide, please. So what happened was Citizens United sued the FEC. Now when Citizens United sued the FEC, there was a couple questions being asked. Was the constitutionality of McConnell v. FEC disclosure requirements properly addressed? Are the requirements for disclosure an unconstitutional burden for electioneering, since electioneering is considered political speech and not campaign speech? So this is trying to define what speech is again. If there is not a clear message to vote in favor or against a particular candidate, is it under the regulation of the McCain-Feingold Act or the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act? Is a feature-length documentary subject to the same election related regulations as an advertisement? So these are all questions posed in Citizens United v. FEC. Also, future reference, Citizens United v. FEC is also referred to just as Citizens United. I'm sure everybody here knows that. Next slide, please. So what ended up happening in this court decision is the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Citizens United. It was a 5-4 decision. What it allowed was the enhancement of dark money. And as we know, it's unregulated and unlimited amount of money to political organizations that just can't coordinate with candidates, but they can spend it as they wish. Advertising, besmirching the other candidate, and so on and so forth. So this allowed for the creation of super PACs, another organization that can accept unlimited money from corporations and special interest groups. The super PACs are not allowed to coordinate with the candidate specifically. It also established that corporations are people. So in that, corporations have the same free speech rights as American citizens. I don't see how an LLC has the same freedom of speech as a regular citizen. Do they breathe? Do corporations breathe? No. Do they eat food? Do they drink water? How do they contribute to society the same way that a citizen in the United States does? But unfortunately, corporations are protected by the First Amendment to donate unlimited amounts of wealth to super PACs. And then corruption is also narrowly defined as quid pro quo. So quid pro quo is this for that. And how that works is essentially you have to be caught saying, hey, this is the money I'm giving you for this very specific thing. Make sure you vote in that way. And that candidate or elected official says, I'll vote exactly that way. It needs to be recorded and everything. It's a very, very narrow focus how corruption is defined. And because corruption is defined in such a manner, we can't really do much about gift spending. There's a cornucopious amount of ways that corruption could be defined, but it's not. It's only this one way. Next slide, please. So the next court case after that was McCutcheon v. FEC in 2014. This essentially just unveiled, it took away the limiting amount of contributions, limitations to any PAC, super PAC, nonprofit, or any political organization. So it deemed it unconstitutional. So limitations are gone. You could donate as much as you want. It's protected under the First Amendment. So money is speech, guys. How do you like that? The more money you have, the higher and stronger your voice is. If you have less money, good luck trying to get your voice out there. It's not worth as much. Next slide, please. So this is the influence of money in our current politics. This is actually a study done in Princeton University. It was conducted in 2013 about the effects of money has on policy. Excuse me. Princeton studied more than 30 years of information to answer one question: does the government work for us? Researchers found that Congress holds a 30 chance. Congress, one second. Catch my breath. So what ended up happening is the results came in and they said that whether 0% of the public or 100% of the public agrees or disagrees with a public policy, it has a level 30% chance of passing, which means that the general public's opinion about an issue has no effect on whether public policy gets passed. However, the more money you have, if you are an elite, you have up to a 68% chance of the bill that you want passed. That means that we have unequal representation in this country. The elite in this country have more representation because they have more money and they have a stronger voice. This is just wrong. It's unjust. How can we live in this unjust society? I don't want to live here like this. We need to do something about it. Next slide, please. So here's another graph talking about the money in our current political system. The first tier says that 91% of winners outspend their opponents. So the more money you have, the more likely you are to win, 91% likely. The second tier is 41% of donors were classified as big. So essentially, So big donors outweighed all other categories by big margins. And the third tier was that winners outspent losers by a factor of 23 to 1. So $23 million on average was spent by each candidate that had won, and $1.1 million was spent by the losers. Next slide, please. So this is also the influence of money in our current political system. So in between 2007 and 2012, there were 200 politically active companies, and the top 200 most politically active foundations spent an average of $29 million in federal lobbying and campaign contributions during the span of 2007 and 2012, for a total of $5.8 billion in donations. Well, these organizations received an average of $22.2 billion back in federal business and support for a total of $4.4 trillion. That is corporate welfare. We take away welfare from the general public, the people who need it, the people who starve, to pay off corporations because of the amount of money they put into our elections. This is ridiculous. We need to stop funding corporate welfare and fund the welfare of the well-being of the general public. Their return on investment was $760 for every dollar they spent. Absurd. So what do Americans think about money in politics? Well, 84% of people in America believe that money has too much of an influence. 85%, next chart down, thinks that elected officials promote policies to help campaigns, at least, 85%, I'd say. Next slide, please. So this is the, from the Sunlight Foundation. This is the tangled web of political donations from organizations that report to the IRS, the FEC, or the Department of Labor. As you can see, that candidates, parties, traditional PACs, and super PACs all report to the FEC. When you report to the FEC, your money is disclosed and it is publicly available. However, there are ways around disclosure. 527s, 501c4s, and 501c5s, they report to the IRS. When you report to the IRS, your money is disclosed to the IRS. It's not disclosed publicly. And then 501c5s are also disclosed to the Department of Labor. So it's very complicated. If you All right, next slide. One of the ways that we can stop this madness is by using a tool that we've had since 1787, Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution. Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution provides two ways to propose an amendment to the Constitution. The first way is Congress. Congress can propose an amendment, vote on the amendment, and then 75% of the states have to ratify it. The other way is 2/3 of the states, 34 states, can collectively call for a resolution for an Article 5 convention. Now, in this convention, delegates selected by state officials go to represent the states. When they go to represent the states, they gather information from everywhere, they propose, they have a big convention talking about what this article should be like. It's limited to what all the state resolutions call for, so it's consolidated into just one topic. It also has a lot of checking power, so it doesn't go crazy, so they don't go off topic, so they can't do anything like rewrite the whole Constitution. This is all written in the Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution. And an amendment to the Constitution cannot be overturned without another amendment. Next slide, please. So this is Lawrence Lessig. He was a young guy when this episode aired. I don't know why they just didn't have Lawrence Lessig instead of Christopher Lloyd. Christopher Lloyd did a hell of a job, I'll say that. So Lawrence Lessig agrees with Wolf-PAC. He came to our workshop this year in August and gave a speech about how money has a corrupting influence in our politics. And he states that Article 5 is a guaranteed solution to our problem. Having an Article 5 convention, giving the power back to the states, is our solution. We can't rely on Congress. Congress is so corrupted by money. How could we remotely rely on them? We need to bring the power back to us. We need to lobby our representatives. We need to gather everybody together and say, hey, we want an Article 5 convention. And Lawrence Lessig is all about that. He's an expert on what it really means to call for an Article 5 convention and why it's the logical path to address money's corrupting influence in politics. So in this powerful presentation, he dissected the history and language surrounding Article 5 and the arguments other arguments often used against the convention strategy. Next slide, please. One of the biggest supporters of an Article 5 convention is the Department of Justice. They came out with a report in 1987 that outlined, hey, Article 5 is a great way to propose an amendment to the Constitution. Here are the 4 outcomes from that report. The convention would not exist outside the American justice system, so it exists within the American justice system. States have authority over their delegates. So if a delegate says, hey, I'm not going to represent the state on the state's behalf, well, the state could say, hey, you're not doing your job, we're going to kick you out. Another proposal, anything proposed still needs to be approved by 75% of states, whether it's Congress calling for the convention or the states calling for a convention, still we need 75% of states, 38 states to ratify it. And lastly, Congress would pass legislation stating that a convention is going to take place in this city, on these dates, on this topic. Next slide, please. How are we going to do this? Join Wolf-PAC! Wolf-PAC is a nonprofit organization. We're dedicated to getting the 20th Amendment to this U.S. Constitution by using Article 5 outlined by our founding fathers, proven it will work. We haven't done it yet. There has been no Article 5 amendments just yet. We came really close with the 17th Amendment. It was to regulate the elections of senators. And because the general public said, hey, we're going to do this whether you like it or not, Congress said, well, we might as well do it because it's going to get done. So they took it and just passed it anyway. So what we're doing is calling for an Article 5 convention for free and fair elections. We want to fix our campaign finance system. It's severely broken. It's seriously the only solution at this point. If Congress won't do it, it's up to us. And we've done a pretty damn good job. So we've passed resolutions in 5 states. We've lobbied, we've lobbied, we've hurt ourselves, we've yelled, we've shed just blood and tears and sweat everywhere. We passed in 5 states. Those 5 states are New Jersey, that's where we're from, Vermont, California, Illinois, and Rhode Island. We're looking to get state number 6 this year, so stay tuned. Yeah, so we're 15% complete already, and we're looking to get to 34 states. There are so many opportunities available in Wolf-PAC. Right now, Kedar is an organizer. I'm a national coordinator. We have a lot going on. So let's continue. We have a call for unity. We have a unity letter that's listed on our website. These are all the organizations that support us. We have the Stampede, Money Out, Voters In. That is Ben and Jerry. Thank you very much. Represent us, one of the largest campaign finance reform groups in the country. Supports us. American Promise, Just As Equal. We, the people of Massachusetts, Get Money Out. In Maryland, just so many folks. So many folks. We all work together. There's no argument on this front. We say, hey, if money is the root of all the issues in this country, why argue about all the other issues? Let's work together to solve this one. Why? So let's call for unity. Okay. Nope. Go back one.
Yep.
Okay. So let's go to questions. Anyone have any questions?
Well, I just wanted to say, maybe I'm remembering quickly. Season 7, very end, Matt Santos wins, so great. This was like the first thing he talks about, is the first thing he wants to do is get money out of politics. He's like, and he says it in the show, if you do this, all other issues, you can work on all the other things, you can't do anything until this happens, which is really interesting. So what does getting involved mean? Does that mean you're making, what is like a day-to-day life for a volunteer for Wolf-PAC?
It's a very good question. So a day in, day out for a volunteer means We reach out to our constituents. We are doing it on a national level, on a state level. We need to get the voice out. We need to educate the public. The public is just is really not aware of a lot of issues, really. But you know, this, like I said, this is the biggest issue. So we need to make sure the entire public knows. We need to get them out. We need to get the constituents out to represent us and themselves if they want to have a representative democracy again. We cannot do this by ourselves. We have in Wolf-PAC around 30 to 40,000 volunteers. We're always looking for more. We're volunteers here. We traveled all the way from New Jersey on our dime. You know, we want this issue resolved. I don't want to be a part of Wolf-PAC anymore because Wolf-PAC should be gone when we get this issue. That's it. So essentially, being part of Wolf-PAC is talking to your legislators, representing yourself and your community. We want, to the full extent of everybody, helping each other out. That's what we believe in. We can't do this alone. Kedar, you have anything to add?
Yeah.
Question?
I would also add that a large part of being a volunteer is talking to your legislators. It's important to have that level of communication with those who represent you, and ultimately, we can sit here till kingdom come and try and get it done just by getting volunteers, but we have to be able to lobby our legislators, have conversations with our legislators for them to ultimately get the resolution passed in their states.
Yeah. Question in the back?
I'm proud to say I'm from New Jersey, so you've already done the deed there. So what is I as a resident of New Jersey to do? Because I'm totally on board with this. This needs to be dealt with 35 other states in the world.
Would you like to first?
Yeah, so one of the organizations that's up there is Represent Us, and currently we're actually collaborating with them on some disclosure bills for some legislative projects within the state level. So we're moving past trying to get the resolution passed there. We've already done it, and now we're trying to address campaign finance reform on the state level in the way we can.
Okay.
Another goal that we're trying to do is try and help out the other states near us that have not passed it yet. Lend a hand to New York, lend a hand to Pennsylvania, and see how we can help their cause.
Well, I guess you kind of just touched on what I was going to ask a little bit, specifically like your goals. Like I would assume like overturning Citizens United, but like publicly financing elections, or what all would you like to see?
See as in?
Like in goals, like with the BIP and all of that. Like, are you just mainly focusing on overturning Citizens United, or?
So one of the, actually that's a very good question. So what he's asking is what exactly are we looking to do with 20th Amendment? He said, are we looking to overturn Citizens United or something else? We are looking to overturn Citizens United to an extent. We're looking to go all the way back. You know, the issues in this country really seriously stem from Buckley v. Vallejo in 1976. You know, Buckley v. Vallejo laid the groundwork for Citizens United. So by overturning, you know, by not essentially overturning, by fixing our campaign finance laws in the country, we can fix Citizens United decision, we can fix Buckley v. Vallejo, McCutcheon v. FEC, we can fix all these issues. So that's something that we would discuss at the Article 5 convention.
So one thing that I'd like to add to that is that it's very important to remember that our ultimate goal is to remove the corrupting influence of money in politics, but my solution would be different from AJ's solution, which would be different from your solution. So we all have different ideas about it, and the point of the convention is to have a forum where people who are educated on the issue can discuss ideas that can then be implemented. And we can all sit here and talk about it, but ultimately what we talk about won't be sent to the states for them to ratify. But this convention will create a forum where they can do that.
And one more thing on the convention. It would be the delegates from the states that would talk about the issue. It wouldn't be Congress themselves. It wouldn't be state legislators. It would be representatives of the people. There are a few ways that the delegates are proposed or selected. I don't want to quote something different, so we'll leave it at that.
That's all. The specific ways that they're selected is highlighted in the resolution. So it's so the entire process from A to Z, from selecting the language of everything is all specified and consistent within the resolution that each state is trying to pass.
Yes.
Well, I just want, for those of you who don't know, as you've seen me around, I know AJ. We've been best friends for 6-7 years now. He used to not be into politics, and then I was like, what? West Wing, all this stuff. And now you're like super passionate because you found Wolf-PAC.
West Wing is one of the shows that really drove home for me and why I got involved in politics. And I spend about 14 to 16 hours a day working on things like this.
So you're welcome. I did notice when you were writing an email, I think you sent an email to me from your Wolf-PAC email, your signature, and I want, because it's so, all of us West Wingers will love to hear it, but what is your, I think it's an organizational signature, right, is the Margaret Mead quote?
Yeah.
And I think it fully is what your organization stands for.
So this quote actually appears in a lot of places. It is Margaret Mead, and it goes like this. I never doubt that a group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. That is a quote that all of us at Wolf-PAC use on every single email we send to anybody, ever. I send that to people that are not Wolf-PAC related. I send that to my professors constantly. I send that to my friends. I send that, it just goes at the bottom of every email. It is absolutely right. Margaret Mead really hit it on the head. We can only do this together. It's really not our legislators, doing things on their behalf. They're our representatives. They're supposed to represent us, which means that we need to voice our opinions. We need to show them what we want, and what we want is not corruption. We want them to represent the general well-being of the public. And how are we going to do that? Get out there and vote. Get out there and educate your neighbors. Get out there and educate your friends. Talk to your state legislators. I guarantee that a lot of people haven't. So it's a little tricky at first. Once you get your bearings, easy breezy. Easy breezy.
To add to that, in New Jersey, when we passed it, we only had a handful of incredibly involved volunteers. Granted, when it came time to having committee hearings and when it came time to actually having the vote, we had a lot more people show up, but the day in, day out, contacting legislators, meeting with legislators was only about 10 of us. So trying to get things done, it's not about having huge numbers of people. It's about people that are thoughtful, committed, and willing to stick it out for the long run and do what's needed to be done to get the results you want.
Yes.
What was the timeline between when you started your effort in New Jersey and you had the legislation?
So I started, so I was one of the first people to hop on in New Jersey in early 2014. For the first 6 months, it took us about 6 months for us to get a primary sponsor on our legislation. So we got a primary sponsor by around June, and we passed it by the following February. So
Wow.
February 2015.
So less than a year.
A year and change. We had both our committee hearings during the fall of 2014, and then we had our final votes. We had our final vote in mid-February. 2015.
Could you talk a little more about if someone were to volunteer with Wolf-PAC, what they would be expected to do?
So some of the things that volunteers are expected to do are things that they would want to do. We honestly don't want volunteers doing anything that they're uncomfortable with. If you're comfortable with meeting state legislators, hey, that is amazing. If you're not, hopefully we can get you there, but we don't. But you're not expected to do things that you really don't want. We like I said, we have our phone banking systems. We do community reach out. We attend events and publicize Wolf-PAC and educate people on all the issues. We also go door to door canvassing, and actually that's one of my favorite things. Is when I go canvassing. We go around and say, hey, this is what's happening in your state. This is your legislator, and this is how they feel about this specific bill or this specific resolution. Do you agree with this? Great. Would you mind signing this letter saying, hey, representative, we want this done? And they say, great, yeah, sign, okay, great. then you say, thank you so much, I will send this out for you, you don't have to do anything other than sign this, and we're good to go. One of my favorite things ever.
Nerd.
Yeah, actually, one of my other favorite things is to actually talk to legislators now. I'll give you a quick background on that. So I joined actually right after we passed our resolution in New Jersey. I unfortunately was not able to witness the spectacle that was our victory. So for a long time, we kind of didn't know what to do in New Jersey, but it's okay. We kept going. Our volunteers still were committed, and we were chugging along. And like Kedar was saying, we also helped out other states. So one of the things that we were doing was going to other state houses and meeting with legislators. I've never met a legislator a day in my life. I decided to drive all the way up to Albany from Center, Jersey, and talk to state legislators for about 12 hours in one day. At first, I didn't talk to anybody. Luckily, I was with a couple of people that were way more experienced than me. So they started talking to legislators. They showed me how easy it was. By the end of the day, I was talking to legislators. It was amazing. Now we have our own bills that we're pushing to represent us in New Jersey. Smooth sailing. It's so incredibly easy. It's a little intimidating at first, but you just realize that they're people. They're people just like us.
As far as what else you can do is, if you're not the kind of person that wants to sit there and talk to legislators or phone bank, we also have people that would like to do research, look more into each of the different legislators, find out more information about each of them, their voting record, their views on campaign finance, and that would help those who are ultimately meeting with the legislator go in there with a bit more information. For example, actually one of our former state directors for New Jersey had this huge binder that talked about every single possible issue and how it connects to campaign finance. So if we had a legislator that we're meeting with who was very involved in say cancer research, he would have a document, he would have a summary about how campaign finance would tie to inhibiting proper cancer research. And we would go there because we did the research on that legislator. We could talk about an issue and how it would affect them, specifically an issue that they're interested in.
We also have things like writing teams, data teams, we'll go into more of that if you decide to join. We also have essentially a media team, like a creative team, who, we have banners that we need to make. This is extremely simple. I did this, unfortunately, I'm not on the creative team. So it's just that. But yeah, we, whatever you feel comfortable about doing, whatever skills you have, bring it. We want you to feel comfortable volunteering. We don't want to ever put you in an uncomfortable position.
Is it just signing up? You guys have a booth?
Yeah, so we have a table out in front. We also brought the sign-up sheet here just in case. We'll pass it around if you guys would like. Actually, let's just do that. Whether you guys like it or not, we're just gonna pass it around. Any other questions?
What's your favorite episode of The West Wing?
The one where they discuss Social Security.
Oh.
That one, yeah, that one stands out the most to me. It's a time where there was actual bipartisanship, and they really didn't care how it was going to happen. They wanted to get something done. Something was horribly wrong with Social Security, so they wanted something done, and they worked together to do it. That really plays into Wolf-PAC's message. We're a cross-partisan, bipartisan, whatever you want to call it. I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're liberal. I don't care if you're libertarian, progressive. Doesn't matter to me. This issue spans across all Americans. We accept everyone. I've never met such a compassionate group before. I was fortunate enough to attend that Wolf-PAC workshop that I was talking about. Lawrence Lessig went to. And it was a genuine experience. It's one of the most invigorating times of my life. We've only ever had two, and we're going to keep them going. And it's my favorite time of the year. We collect in one spot. Everyone travels from all over the country. I think the first year we had 70 people. This year we had 90 people, including speakers such as Jim Huger from the New York Turks. We had Lawrence Lessig. We also had Jeff Clements from head of American Promise. They all came and spoke, and it was a transcendence experience. I'm not gonna lie. After they all spoke, I cried. It was overwhelming, and you leave that place and you come back and you say, what can I get done? How many hours in the day? Can we expand the amount of hours we have in a day? We need to do everything we can. Let's call our constituents. Let's reach out to our legislators. There's nothing like it. I love it. There's nothing I would ever do that would change my mind on Wolf-PAC. Anything for you?
Mine would be the episode where they were rewriting the Belarusian constitution. I thought that was just kind of some of the quotes from that were so interesting. Like it's not about writing a set of law. It's about building up this sense of the rule of law. Like just going in there with that mentality of that kind of acceptance that we're not unified and we're not law-abiding citizens because we're following what it says on a piece of paper, but because we have understanding with each other as a society on what's important to us and essentially the rule of law.
Any questions? I actually would like to tell one more story, and I think, yeah, take the claps back. So he's not here today, but I'm sure he would absolutely hate if I told this story. But his name is Cliff Walker Green. He was our original state leader when we passed in New Jersey, and you know what?
I was gonna say he's the guy that had the huge binder that I was talking about with all the information that connects to each legislator.
I believe he was around 19, maybe 18 or 19 when when we passed. He was a college student from New Jersey, but was attending in Philadelphia, I believe. Yeah. Kedar.
So I was actually here for the story. So Walker, he was around 19 or 20, and at this point he actually didn't have a car or a driver's license, and he lived pretty out of the way. So he was meeting with legislators all over the state, trying to use public transport to get there. He would travel 3-4 hours to try and meet with the legislator. He'd wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning to do it. And he was there day in, day out to get what we needed to get done. And we passed in February 2015, and a few days before we had the vote, he got appendicitis. So he had to get his appendix removed. So while we were all there celebrating passing the vote, we were there watching the vote being passed. He was lying in a hospital bed. And right after the vote happened, a bunch of us who were working on it with him, we all drove down to the hospital and we helped him out. We went there like, we won it. We got the resolution passed. And there's actually a great video of that was online somewhere.
Yeah, so Walker was one of the critical key components to passing a resolution because of the amount of work he put in. He put in just time after time. If we had a meeting with a legislator, he would show up, he would take a bus for 4 hours from Philadelphia, anywhere in the state, and attend that meeting. He's one of the driving forces for me. His motivation really keeps me going. To have someone like Walker to look up to, being from New Jersey, starting out as just a volunteer, moving my way up. I became the state leader or organizing director in New Jersey just a couple months ago, and now I'm a national coordinator. And those states that you saw with Rhode Island, New Jersey, California, Illinois, and Vermont, those are now the states that I get to help out. We passed in those states, but what do we do next? And that is something that we really want to accomplish. We want to use these strengths to strengthen other states, and it's the power. It's a collective power of one, and now we have 5 that are one. So, so Walker's dedication and knowing Walker as a friend at this point now, it's phenomenal the way he does, and I'll assure you, he'll be something great one day. Absolutely.
Yeah, can we clap for you?
Clap.
Thank you for coming out, guys.
Thank you, thank you.